So we did a concert for them, and then this morning I got up at 5, drove about an hour, or it should be an hour, it was 2 hours with traffic and rain. It always rains when I have to get to the airport. It doesn't matter. I can be in the Sahara Desert and it still will rain. And we, so made it on time. And at the airport, one of the trains was not working well, so it was difficult. But I made it here, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. And this last week we remembered September 11th, and to me it means a lot because. I remember. I mean, all of you remember what happened when it happened. Where you were? Well, I was living in Newport Beach at the time, and I remember Mom coming upstairs and waking me up. Wake up! America's on fire! America's on fire! I thought like the stove is on fire or the kitchen, like America's on fire. So I came down, and you see the first plane, the second plane. I didn't see the first one, and the second plane, and all of a sudden, I felt like every American's like, wow, what's going on? It's a shock. And then you hear of these people dying, that many, it's just shock. But then there was another factor to me is I'm a comedian. I'm a Middle Eastern comedian. What do I do? Is my career over? Is my life, and then you hear of people attacking Middle Eastern that day is like, okay, it's over, and that fear came upon me, and I was very afraid. And I know the Lord said, Naz, don't worry about it. Just go out and tell people how much you love Jesus, and tell people how much you love this country. And I started something called the Proud to Be an American tour. And for 3 years, we toured the country. I had my opening act with Brittany Cole, the artist and the music artist, and my feature act was an illusionist by the name of Jared Mack. He's a pastor now. And we fill up like 1,200 theaters, and at the end of the event, we take the proceeds from the products and give it to a family that they lost a loved one in Afghanistan or Iraq. So it was a great thing. But the reason I share this is 10 years later, I get a call from Ramstein Air Force Base, and they want me to come to Germany. And they said, hey, we have 1,000 airmen that want to see you. I'm like, are you trying to deport me legally here? And they go, no, no, really. These some fans, they want to see you, they want to laugh. So I went, and so I did comedy for 1,000 airmen. And the next day they had this memorial for the September 11th. So they did it out in one of the runways. It's huge. Ramstein is huge, and all the generals from NATO and from Europe were there. And the head for general was from the U.S. He was the head guy, and they sat me next to him. So we did the national anthem. We're standing there. I'm just, it's surreal for me. I'm standing there. We're doing the national anthem. They're folding the American flag, and then they started doing the German anthem, and they were folding the German flag, and it took forever. So I leaned to the general and I go, "Aren't you glad they don't fold your laundry?" And you should see a four-star general trying not to laugh. He's shaking chickens. And then after we're all done, he goes, "Don't do that. If only they saw me laughing during the German anthem, what would happen?" I go, "I'm sorry. It's just funny." And I was thinking, like, wait, 10 years ago, I was afraid that my career is over, that I will not be accepted. And now I'm standing there, and there's thousands of, troops. And I'm standing there next to the highest general. So just want to encourage you, because sometimes we get afraid, and we're always afraid. But the biggest fear sometimes, I know the biggest fear in life is fear of public speaking. And number two is death. So now I'm a public speaker, so I'm not afraid of that. And I'll share a story before I introduce my next guest, because it's perfectly fitting. Some of you know this. My dad. My dad was 66 years old when they found that he had some kind of anemia, and where he could, he needed blood. So I would take him every 2 weeks, fill him up with blood, and he'll be fine for 2 weeks. Then we have to go back, do refills. Always used unleaded blood for him. So we did all that, and then the last time they said, "Hey, we can't give him anymore." I'm like, "Why not?" They go, "His body won't take it." I go, "So what's going to happen?" They said, "Oh, his organs will be shutting down, and eventually he will die." Like, oh no, you can't do that. They said that's what happened. So my dad was in the hospital. Then he went to a hospital, a hospital where they college hospital in Costa Mesa, where they wait for him to die. So I started praying that God would take him, that God would take my dad, so he doesn't have to feel the pain. And so I remember the doctor. One time I had to do a show, and I said, "Dad, please don't die. I have a show. I'll be back. Don't die till I get back." So I went, did my show, came back. It was 1 a.m, and the doctor that was at that shift, he said, "Don't worry, he's not gonna die." I go, "Man, I'm praying that he would die," and the doctor gave me this dirty look. "What are you talking about?" I go, "You know what? I don't want him to be in pain." So anyway, he goes, "Don't worry." So I left. About an hour later, I get a call from that doctor. He goes, "I'm sorry, your father died." I go, "Oh yeah, praise God." He goes, "What?" I go, "Praise God." He goes, "Oh, whatever." So I go to the hospital, and I see my dad just laying dead in the bed, so peaceful. And I sat down, and they said, "We're waiting for the mortuary to get here." So my dad's laying there peacefully. I'm reading the book of John. I have my Bible with me, and I'm reading. I'm thanking God for my dad and all that. And all of a sudden, my dad started moving. And I was like, what? What? First Lazarus, then me? My dad? What? So I run out of in the hallway. I was like, doctor, my dad is still alive. And the doctor looks at me and goes, "I thought you want him dead." I go, no, he's moving. So he comes into the room, and he goes, "Oh no, your dad's still dead. It's just the nurse forgot to turn off this mattress that move his body so he doesn't get bed sores." And it was one of those funniest. It's funny. It was funny to me. See, comedians, we laugh when things happen. People say, "You are insensitive talking about death." No, we're not. This is how we react. Singers, when they lose a loved one, they start singing a song about it. Poets will write a poet. Comedians, we think of jokes. Why? That's how we respect. So this whole podcast today is talking about death and dying and all that. And if you don't think that's funny, that's fine. We're not making light of it. We're humans. But as a Christian who knows what's going to happen at the end, I think it's more comforting. So my guest today is a funeral home director, and he's a very, very good friend of mine. But before I introduce him, I want to play a few minutes, 2 minutes of a comedian, a friend of mine. His name is John, and John talks about, his dad's dying. So let's play it, and then we'll introduce Chris officially.
My dad died when I was 9 years old. It was very traumatic. I still remember it like it was yesterday. There was a man in a suit. He came to our door, and he knocked on the door. We answered. It was nighttime. "I'm sorry to tell you this, but he died about an hour ago." "An hour ago? What, did you stop for dinner on the way here?" A lot of thoughts go through your head when you lose a parent, especially when you're young. Like, who's going to take me to McDonald's? Who's going to take me to the park and not know how to fly a kite? Who is going to teach me how to shave? My mom? I was like 35 years old before I realized I'm not supposed to shave my legs. I still remember getting those awkward phone calls after my dad died. "Are you the man of the house?" I am now, apparently. One of the biggest things I remember after he passed away is people saying, "I'm sorry." They'd say, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Why are you saying you're sorry? Did you kill him? They said he died of a heart attack, but I suspect foul play. Why do you suspect foul play, John? I watched a lot of Magnum P.I. in the 80s, and I always thought, this must be conspiracy. Parents aren't supposed to die. Every time I saw people out and about, they looked a little bit like my dad, I'd say, "That's my dad. I knew this was a conspiracy." And the thing is, it was hard for me to believe that he was dead. He was so healthy. He had a very strict diet. Every day he ate the same thing: ice cream and beer. And for dessert, a cigarette. Apparently, his left ventricle didn't care for that diet. I remember getting the mail and looking at the envelope, and it said his name on there. Like, how am I supposed to deliver this to him? He's 6 feet under. "I'm sorry to tell you this, American Express, but you're going to be waiting a while for this payment." Do they have a grace period for people that are dead? People ask me, what was it like to lose a parent when you're a kid? It's a lot like the movie Home Alone, except the parents never come back. Your dad had such a big heart. Yeah, he did. Cardiomyopathy. What, these are your words of comfort? What, are you going to talk about his fatty liver too? I'm 9 years old. Give me a break.
That was comedian John Campbell, and just to give you an example how we can talk and we can joke about that. But my guest today is a personal friend of mine. We've been to Israel twice together. I know him. I know his family very well. We attended the same church. He is one of the most cheerful people that I know. He is a fun guy, and he's also a funeral home director. Let's welcome Chris Miller. Thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you, Naz. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
Oh, it's awesome. Nobody interviews a funeral home director, but I'm sure people have questions and have the. My first question, like, why this field? Because I know Benjamin Franklin said, but in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes.
Yes.
Why aren't you an IRS agent?
I think that's worse.
That's worse than
Yeah. Because, being a funeral director, I find it rewarding. Because, an IRS agent, that's not rewarding. But
Right.
I have the opportunity to help people in their deepest, darkest times of need. And so for me, that's why I find that rewarding. It wasn't always me. I grew up in this business. My parents bought the funeral home here in Corona back in '69, and I just grew up. So coming home from the hospital, I only knew living in a mortuary. I lived there till I was 6 years old.
Wow, you actually lived next to it, like next door to it?
I lived in it.
In the mortuary?
Yes.
So there were dead people sleeping not next to you, but in the same facility.
Yep, in the room right next door.
And you weren't scared?
Sometimes.
Have
I
you ever
was.
watched horror movies?
No, I don't. I don't like them.
That would be bad.
I know, it is.
Oh, so 6-year-old, and so
Yeah.
you've seen dead people at age 6 and 7.
I've seen dead people.
Was your dad using you to help him?
Yeah, I started when I was 13.
Doing what?
Going out on what we call first calls, going out and bringing the dead people back to the mortuary.
You were 13.
I was 13 years old.
Was there laws against child?
That was
Employment.
family business.
It's family business,
Yeah, and
yeah.
plus that was back in the 70s. There were
Plus,
no rules.
he's dead. The guy is dead. What are you? Who's gonna
Who's
tell?
complaining?
Who's gonna tell? Oh, wow, interesting. So, is there a school for that? Is this you go to college or mortuary science?
Yeah.
You do.
I went to a school at Cypress College, and they have a mortuary science program. So I had already had my bachelor's degree from Cal Poly Pomona, but after wanting to come back into the family business, because I wasn't always in the family business. I was as a teenager, but then I went away to college, and wanted to pursue my own dreams and careers,
Which
was being in hotel restaurant management. I wanted to become a chef and a cook and just serve people, and I'm still serving people today.
I know.
But in a different way.
yes. See, we always, you're thinking you're serving the family of the deceased.
Yeah.
We're thinking, you were from hosting people in hotels to now they're dead.
That's right.
So, yeah, I got a room for you.
That's right. We make a space for them.
Okay, and then what made you change your mind?
Well, at the time, back in the 80s, my parents were thinking of retirement and selling the funeral home. And I didn't want them to sell it to the corporations because they take the personalization out of it. And so I decided to go back into the family business. And so that's when I went back into mortuary school and got my degree in mortuary science. So then I could become a licensed funeral director and an embalmer and work there in the funeral home.
And they teach you literally how to do it, so they had dead bodies,
Yeah.
corpses.
Yeah, they bring them from the Los Angeles morgue to our school there, and we were able to work on them, and they showed us how to start doing the preparations and things there in the college.
I've never seen any, I remember when my aunt died, and you guys were so kind. It was amazing. That's the personal touch. You feel like it felt like it was one of your family
Yes.
members when you guys did at Thomas Miller. So
Thank you.
that was amazing. But it's funny, so do some people fail? Like, you can't be a mortician.
I don't think it's cut out for everybody. And when going to school, you see all sorts of people coming into the school, and I don't know if everybody's really cut out to be in the funeral business. I didn't think I was at first until I realized I was serving people in the restaurant business, and I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to serve people and get more reward out of it. But there are some people, I think, in it for the wrong reasons too, and you have to have a heart. I think you have to have a heart to help, wanting to help people.
Right, because that's
And,
the hardest moment.
yeah, and for me, it's also a ministry. It's you minister to people too, because we deal with all sorts of religions in our industry too. So when we're going to school, we have to learn about all the different faiths and
Like
religious
for
customs.
example, like what? Like I know the Muslims have to bury him right away.
Yep, the Muslims and the Jews have to go within like 24 to 48 hours. So we have to expedite those types of things. But then we deal with Buddhist and Hindu families, and they have a lot of traditions with cremation. So we own and operate our own crematory at our funeral home in Corona. And so we're able to now serve their families too. They used to have to drive all the way to Orange County, but now they can stay here in the city of Corona.
So you have a crematory.
We
See,
own
I'm
and
sorry,
operate a
I'm not
crematory.
from this country. I used to mix creamery and crematory. Like they say, Cold Stone Creamery. I'm like, Cold Stone. That means it's it's the stone they put on the dead.
The slab.
It's a slab. So Cold Stone Crematory. I used to call it Cold Stone Crematory. Oh, that's not, like there should be like I know yours is called Thomas Miller Mortuary and Crematory.
Yes.
Yeah, there's names like it should be called like Smart and Final. That's a good name for a funeral. Or what do you call it? They have Smart and Final. They have Cold Stone, so what is okay? Other than the Muslims and Jews, they gotta bury him right away. The Hindus, they want to cremate a certain way.
If like Filipino traditions, they want 2 or 3 days ceremony. So and sometimes they'll want to take them to their home, so we can bring their loved one. Once we do the preparation, we can take the casket and the body back to the home.
To their home.
And they'll have their prayers 2 or 3 days before we do the burial. So sometimes people want a longer service, where the others want them very quickly.
But don't they have to keep them cold?
No, not with the embalming. We don't.
Oh.
If the body's embalmed, we don't have to have refrigeration. We recommend that they stay in a cool area, but they don't have to be refrigerated.
Now, who puts the makeup on the people?
Well,
You do.
I'm licensed to do that.
You have to be licensed.
You have to be licensed to do that.
You can't just come from Sephora.
I can't just have you come in off the street and do makeup.
Hey,
Yes.
let me try it. How about you get people from the beauty college to the mortuary
It's part of that. When we go to mortuary school, we take a whole semester on cosmetology. And actually restorative art. So if somebody's in a really bad accident, we can reconstruct.
Oh.
Like, how in the movies how they make things look bad?
Yeah.
Well, we make things look good from badness.
But do you want to open the casket when they're in an accident?
Sometimes, yeah.
They do want that?
We're here to make sure people have a positive closure. And if people didn't get to have that opportunity to say their goodbyes and they were in a really bad accident, that's our job of trying to put them back to the way they were.
That's amazing. I remember when my dad died, we did a closed casket. I don't know why, but I mean, when I looked and they put the makeup, he looked good.
Yeah.
Like, do you have to be dead for you guys to work on make him look pretty?
I only do makeup if you're laying down.
So anybody who's laying down, you guys can do.
I did my daughter's hair. I used to do her ponytails in nursery school. You ask Reagan. I used to do her hair.
Oh, I love Colin and Reagan, and they were in Israel with us last time. And so, what is there a new, what do you call it? Like the new technology now in what do you call it I lost the word. Like with the new embalming and stuff.
Yeah,
There's a new.
Well, there's a
technology.
thing called resomation. It's using alkaline. It's instead of cremation, like burning people with fire, they're burning them with alkaline and lye, so they melt the body away.
Oh, I see.
With a hot water and lime solution. So if people are afraid of fire, they can use hot lime water, and it just dissolves the body.
Okay, so they don't have to have the for the environment.
Yeah, it's more of a kind of a green alternative.
Yes.
It hasn't caught on here in California. It's kind of big in Colorado right now, and in the Midwest. I think in Ohio, there's a couple states that do it, but it's just starting out right now.
But what about people who are talking about what do you call it? Now they can make a tree out of a person.
Green burials.
Green burial.
Yeah. So when people are after they're cremated, we have their ashes, so we can put them in containers where then becomes almost like a fertilizer. So then people can become a tree and plant it as a tree. We've had people made out of diamonds. You know, your wife Maha would be worth more now as a diamond later on after she dies.
You can make someone into a diamond?
I can make you into a diamond.
Wow. I know I have an uncle who was very like sour, so he can make into a lemon tree or something.
Perhaps.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it is interesting because do we have any callers who are asking? Not yet. I told them to call a little bit later. But you know, with the whole thing of like one time I have a friend who called me. Goes, Nazareth, my brother just died. I want you to come and do comedy at his funeral. I go, really? He goes, yeah, he loved laughing. He loved you. So can you come and do comedy? It's like, okay, you know, if the family wants that, I'll go there.
Yeah.
So there were like 150 people, and they cremated him already, and they had him in a little vase. And then the guy that was doing the worship, he was sitting down on a stool, and he had a big foot. And every time he was singing, I can only imagine his foot gets so close to the vase. And I'm sitting, I can only imagine what's going to happen. And then I went up and did like 30 minutes of comedy, and his mom, you know, was laughing. And that was just amazing. Now, is there ones that harder than others, like if they're younger or baby?
You do have a caller now. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. This is our producer, Sean Kelly. Let's take a call and
Sure,
we'll continue
absolutely.
that question. Who do we have on the line?
Hi, this is Chris Rossetti from San Francisco.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm so glad you have this guest. I've got a lot of questions for him.
Shoot him.
Boy.
Shoot
Okay.
at him. Go ahead.
First of all, my name's Chris as well. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Hi, pleasure.
Have you ever heard of a city called Colma, California?
Yes.
Yeah, Colma. Tell Naz what it means, because Colma's quite interesting. It's so expensive in San Francisco that they dug the dead up and moved them. Tell them about that.
I don't know about the history of Colma, but I know we work with a company that sells urns in Colma.
Urns? What's urns?
Yeah.
Urns are the containers, the vases that we put the ashes into.
Oh, okay.
So we work with a company up in Colma.
That's why they make them there. So
Yeah, they actually dug the dead up in San Francisco many, many years ago, and they said, look, the real estate's too valuable, and I'm serious, they created a city called Colma, and that's where everyone is buried. Nobody is buried in San Francisco.
oh, they're in a coma. Do you have any jokes?
Question,
Go ahead.
No, this is serious stuff, but here's a question for you. My wife says she's going to put on my tombstone, I should have listened to my wife. Is there any way I can stop that?
No. Nope. Well, I mean, you could do a pre-need. I mean, if you prepaid for it and had it all done ahead of time,
Right.
by law, we're supposed to fulfill a pre-need contract. So yeah, you could actually put it all together in writing and have it all signed, sealed, and delivered, and they shouldn't be able to change it.
Fantastic.
Or you can spend the rest of your life, what's left of your life, trying to convince her otherwise.
Next question.
Yes.
Can I get a motion sensor on my grave that when someone goes by, it'll say, "You're blocking my view"?
Well, it all depends what your view is. You may want it blocked.
Last question.
Okay.
Last question. Nazareth, thank you for the time. Last question.
No problem.
I'm kind of a big guy. Do I need to go to Costco to get a bulk coffin, or do you have big ones?
Oh no, we can go 3 wide, 4 wide. You let us know. We can go as wide as you need.
What is it, a trailer?
Or longer. I mean, I don't know how tall. Are you tall or wide?
I used to shop at big and tall, but now I shop at short and wide.
We can accommodate either.
Oh, that's funny. You're right. Double wide? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But Costco, you have to buy like 4 or 5 caskets together,
Yeah,
right?
you got to buy them in bulk.
In bulk. So you
Yeah.
have to kill some people. I mean, you have to
Take
wait
them with you.
Yeah, don't die yet. Let's die together and save. That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Chris,
Have a great
thank
day,
you for your
gentlemen. You bet.
time, man. I appreciate
Take care,
that.
Chris.
It's funny, like, when you
Thank
get comedian, like, there's jokes. I mean, the only jokes that I know about death is, like, they ask people like, what do you want people to say when they look in the casket
Yeah.
and see you dead? And the first one, he said, I want him to look at me. He said, this was the greatest father, the greatest husband that ever lived.
Yeah.
The other guy said, I want him to look at me and say, this is the greatest inventor that he contributed to society. And the third guy, they said, what do you want him to say? Say, I want him to say, oh, look, he's still moving. And anybody moved during the...
No, not on my watch, Naz. I've heard stories out there, and so a story could be true or false. So I don't want to really throw stories out there that I don't know factually it happened. A story that had happened to a staff of mine at one time.
So it's true. Your staff said
My
it.
staff saw it. They came back after they had gone on a call. They had come back and said that they had witnessed that a small infant had come back to life in the morgue at the hospital when they were there. I don't know what happened after that incident, but the baby had come back to life for that moment while they were there and they took care of it. I don't know if the baby's still living today, but this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Now going back to what people say in the caskets, though.
Yes.
You know, I go to Encore a lot at the church, and that's the group, all the senior ladies.
I just spoke there.
You know?
Yeah.
And every time I go there, because I drop off a cake once a month for their birthdays, I celebrate. They all
Sure.
celebrate.
Is
down
there
here.
something in the cake so when business is slow?
But all those little ladies, they all come up to me, Naz, and they're like, now, when I die, I want you to make me look 20 years younger. And I'm like, I can do that because I can do like Botox, you know.
You can?
Only if you're dead, though.
Oh, you can?
I can't do it if you're alive.
What if someone acts like they're dead? But
No.
is it cheaper than going to a regular Botox?
I think so. I can do it for pennies on the dollar.
Because my dad, remember, they made him like, rosy.
looks
I've never
smooth.
seen my dad with makeup. He didn't look, I'm like,
Well-
no, I don't want this the last one to see my dad with rosy cheeks
Yeah.
and eyeliners.
Yeah, and we have a secret.
Uh-huh.
I might as well let
Yeah,
the
let it out.
You want-
Nobody knows except
No.
my fans, and they're very good, right, guys?
Well,
They're
we believe at our place because there's actually mortuary makeup. You know, it's all this, like you said, the pink rosy stuff.
yeah.
I just go up the street and buy regular makeup up the street.
Oh,
Like the makeup your wife uses,
yeah.
that's the same makeup I use. I just go up the street and get it at the store. You go to Sephora, you go to
Yeah,
Ulta. I get the
Ulta.
same makeup.
Oh, so you know all about this makeup.
Oh yeah, I have to know about makeup.
The foundation, the
Oh, yeah.
base.
The
I get them
eyeliners
at
and all
Home
that.
Depot, $12 a gallon for foundation.
The foundations.
But you know what? This is funny because when you guys, it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. You can be having the greatest day in your life, and then when you go pick up a person, a body, you have to put that face, and you have to watch what you say, right?
Yes. Yeah, you do need to know what to say because this was back when I started over almost 25, 30 years ago. I had only met with 3 or 4 families, and because the first 6 months or so, I had to go in and just observe. But this was my second or third family that I had met with, and I came in to greet them, and I said, "Good morning."
Ooh.
And one of the ladies in the room said, "What's so good about this morning?" And I felt so small that day. My heart sunk. I said, "Oh my goodness!" And ever since that day, anytime I go in to meet with a family to start arrangements, I never say good day or good morning because it's not good on their end. You know,
So what do you say? Hello?
I just say hello. How can I help you today?
What if someone said, hello has the word hell in it? What are you trying to do? You know how some people complain.
Now, it all depends. Some people have a good spirit. They have strong faith, and they're very accepting of the loss of their loved one. So you really have to read every family that you're dealing with. So some you have to walk on eggshells because they're just so sensitive about the loss of their loved one. And then some are like you said, praise the Lord that they're no longer suffering.
See, that's the thing about as a Christian who knows where I'm going to go. Don't you think it's easier for the family who are believers than it is for non-believers?
I do. I so deeply believe because I see families coming through my front door every day, and those that have strong faith get through the transition of death so much easier. It is. I mean, that's so true. Nothing to laugh about on that.
Right, and that's where you don't argue with people. You Christians and you're religious, and no, it does. That's the big, like for me when I accepted Christ, and now, that's the best thing I gave my family.
Yes.
To them to know that if anything happens to me and I'm gone, where I'm going, they know where I'm going to be.
Yes.
So that's comforting, not just for me, for the whole family.
That's right.
Now, like what's his name? Alan, the comedian from the old days. I'm forgetting names. I just got off the plane. But he said, I don't mind dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens.
That's exactly right.
Yes. So here's a question.
Sure.
Nobody asked you. What do you guys do with someone who is a donor? Like I went to the DMV. I said I want to be a donor. They looked at me, goes, no, thank you.
I'm glad you brought up that question. And that's become more popular, people being donors. And I believe in the donor program. If someone's body is in good enough shape, now I don't know if yours, Naz,
Right now I'm not.
Dad,
So
I don't know.
They said no. The DMV
I
and
think
Riverside said,
they
no, we
declined
don't
you
want
now.
any of you.
But for donors, if they can save a person's life and extend somebody else to have quality of life, I'll believe in it. For those families that want that, we have the ability to basically put them back together. And so we do that because typically they're only taking the internal organs, the hearts, the livers, the lungs, and the eyes and things like that. So there are sometimes, though, that they might take bone and skin for burn victims and stuff.
Yes.
So we need to take special circumstances of preparing the body so then we can still do a viewing.
You can still do a viewing.
Absolutely. We can still do a viewing.
You guys are amazing.
We
so
are.
people shouldn't be scared of donating their body.
No,
parts
they can
or-
donate their bodies. Yep.
That's neat about Americans. Americans have this heart to donate. In other countries, like third world countries, people sell their
body parts, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was just thinking about that. I was like, what would be the name of the stores? Like Head and Shoulder, Slim Limbs, the Gland Stand, or Bed Bath and Bowels. I don't know. This is how we think as comedians. Like,
Oh, my
ooh,
goodness.
really? People sell their? Is it? And this is, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that if you're in the emergency room and you're like really dying,
Yes.
if they find out you're a donor, they don't try to save you as much. Is this true or?
That I don't know. I don't think so, Naz. But they do keep you if they know you're a donor, even if you're not a donor, they'll keep you alive. They'll keep you on life support
Right.
to keep your organs alive until they know that you're not needed.
You're not needed.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Here's a question: have you ever personally been emotional when you went to a funeral and some stranger? Is it because the age of the person and stuff?
Yeah, I say it's always tough to see younger people pass away and die because you always feel like maybe their life wasn't fulfilled. There's a reason why we're all here and we have a certain length. We all have that time. And you wonder if their life was cut short, what difference they could have made in the future. And so there's sometimes that I feel when there's certain people, you wonder why they left early. They were cut short. And we don't know why. And yeah, sometimes we're all human, and we get it.
Right.
A little spark in our heart, and I know about a tear in the eye. I never tear up in front of a family. You got to be strong for them. So as my people, my staff, my employees, when we're with families and stuff, we're the strong, stoic one. But once we go behind closed doors, then then we might get a little
Really? I
emotional.
thought it's the other way. If they see you crying, that means you're feeling with them. And
No,
you
we're here
have to
for
be
them to cry on our shoulders, to be the strong one, to be the comforter.
so how? I mean, you go into a home and someone just died, and
Yeah.
when you leave, okay, you're finished your shift, or for
Yep.
example, you're the owner, so you're always there. And I remember, I know we were in the same Bible study, and sometimes you have to get up at 4 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
You get a call, you have to go do it yourself. When you're done with that, what lifts you up? What makes you smile again? And
I think at first when I first started this a long time ago, I was more sensitive to it. Over time, it's not that I've gotten more or less sensitive to them. I still have compassion and empathy towards them, but I try to disassociate myself so I don't get so personal into it. When I first started as a funeral director back when I was in the beginning, I had a hard time leaving the grave with the family. I didn't want to leave until they left.
Oh.
Because I felt like I didn't complete my job. I wanted to make sure that they were taken care of, and I always had a hard time saying goodbye. Like, bye. I'm leaving you, and I always had a hard time having that separation.
Right.
It took probably 8 or 9 years for me to finally feel comfortable on saying, thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve your family. I'm going to be leaving at this time.
I see.
But it took a long time for me to feel comfortable to do that because I just wanted to keep serving them type of thing. It's like I didn't want to leave.
See, we never. You know what? You brought the humanity in this. I've been to so many funerals, and I've spoke at several funerals, but I've never seen. I never thought of that director that he's going through that and who's feeling that way. Now, the whole funeral procedure. Why do you guys use a limousine?
Well, we use a hearse for the body, and then the limousine is for the living.
No, the hearse.
The
hearse. Why is it always a Cadillac? Like, oh, I arrived. Finally, I got my Cadillac.
That's right. You want the Cadillac, don't you? I mean,
it doesn't matter.
If you're driving the Hyundai your whole life or the Kia, you want to go out in a Cadillac, right?
Yeah. It's funny because, and it always have the cars behind it, the family follows, and then they always slap this funeral sticker on each car.
Yeah.
And those cars now, they follow depending on how close you are to the family, you start driving.
That's right.
And if someone tries, someone in regular traffic doesn't know about the funeral and tries to get in there, I've seen cars where push him, hit his bumper, get out. You don't know him. You're not sad as we are.
Well, we've had that. We've had people strangers pull into a procession and then make a turn, and then everybody else follows the other car, and then we've lost half of them. It's happened. Really?
That is funny. And
it's happened a lot of
and then you have the two motorcycle guys that feel they're like God. They tell God what to do. You can't no red light, no nothing. And I'm thinking, okay, if I ever have enough money, I'm gonna buy one of those hearse cars.
Yep.
And then hire two of these motorcycle guys. So whenever I'm going to work, I can get there fast. I don't need to stop for red light.
No, that's the best thing.
That's a good idea. That is funny. So, what do you call it? And then with the, what do you call it? There was, one time I was in Montana.
Yeah.
And in Montana, most people die by crashing into a deer on an elk.
Yeah.
And I'm so I did my show, and I was driving at 11 at night to the hotel near the airport, and the pastor said, Nazareth, just remember, there's a lot of people who died because they crashed into a deer. Really? This beautiful Bambi is gonna kill me? I never thought I will die by an animal. Yeah, I don't. I want CNN to talk about my death, not Animal Planet. but I mean, they said this deer will come in and look like an actor from Hollywood. The minute they see the lights, they stop and smile and stare at you, and that's when you hit them. And if they're big like an elk, and you see a lot of crosses on the road, and I was like, okay, that was one of the first times. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die here in Montana.
Wow.
No, I want to die in Corona. But you and Rhonda were married for 25 years.
Yes.
I love Rhonda. She was in the Bible study with us.
Yes.
And 3 years before she went to be with the Lord, we found out that she had stage 4 cancer.
Yes.
But she was one of those strong personalities that wanted to decide to go healthy without the chemo.
That is correct.
And she tried all these oils and all these vitamins and stuff.
Yes.
What was the last 3 years as a husband? Number one, doing what you do, you deal with dead people every day.
Yes.
But to know that your wife is dying, what was that like?
My thing when my wife found out she had stage 4 cancer and she was wanting to treat herself the way she did, I was supporting her on whatever her decision was. That's because it takes a support team. Did I believe in everything she did? Maybe not all the time. But did I tell her that? No, because I supported her in all her decisions on the way she treated herself. And I think that's what any spouse could do. If their loved one is going through a terminal illness, you only support them on what they want to do. Because the decision, you might make decisions together, but it's ultimately that person with the cancer's decision to make. So I was always there supportive. I would drive her to her doctor's appointments. I would take care of her at home. Anything that she needed, I was her caregiver during about the 3.5 years of her treating her cancer.
So what was it like? You come home from work, you're dealing with these families who lost their loved ones, and it's depressing, it's stressful, and you know what you're coming into at home.
It was just as stressful. It's almost that she lived a strong life up until the last couple weeks. She was even at Bible study 3 or 4 weeks before she died. So she prayed to God every day to get her up and out of the house and to the food pantry or to church or whatever. She would get up and do it because she knew if she kept going, that would keep her going.
She was amazing.
She was.
I remember every email she sent to me, she said, by his stripes, I'm healed.
Yep.
And I was telling her, I said, Rhonda, and I believe God's going to heal you. And when he's going to heal you, you're coming with me on the road to do your testimony. And she goes, whatever God wants to do, I'm okay with it. So she left you with Colin and Reagan, and they're just wonderful kids.
Yes, they are.
Now, Colin is following on your footsteps now.
Possibly. He just graduated San Diego State.
Doing what? In what? Business?
In business administration. So now I told him I didn't want him to go directly into the family business. He has definitely showed an interest, but I said, you need to go out into the real world and see what's out there. Just like my parents didn't force me into the funeral business. They allowed me to go into the restaurant and hotel business for several years until I found out it wasn't as rewarding. So I want Colin to find out the same thing. I want him to go out and try different things and to go out there and adventure. And then if he says someday, Dad, I want to come back into the business, then I'm here to work with him side by side and to have him continue the family business.
But what did he do today?
What did he do today? He got up at 4:30 this morning and drove almost up to Colma. He drove up near Gilroy to the San Joaquin National Cemetery for a graveside service at 9:30. So it took him 5 hours to drive up there, and he's just about ready to pull into Corona now. So
why? Is it work for him or?
Right now he doesn't have full employment, so he helps me around the funeral home whenever I need his help. So he helps out. So
this is one of your clients, the 5 hours away?
Yeah, one of our families. They wanted to be buried at the National Cemetery up in Northern California.
Oh, okay.
So their loved one died here in Corona, but they wanted to be buried up north, and so we drove them up north to be buried.
Okay, so you guys, people can.
We go to Las Vegas a lot, Phoenix, Arizona. We'll drive about 5 to 8 hours. We'll drive up to the Bay Area for gravesides. We'll pick people up, bring them back here. A lot of accidents happen out at the river, Colorado River.
Oh,
so we'll go out to Bullhead City, Laughlin. When people pass away, we'll bring them back to Corona. So we go all over Southern California and serve people.
Interesting. And sometimes you drive alone in the car with a dead body in the back?
Yeah, sometimes. But we can't take the carpool lane.
You can.
It's not two people.
Really?
It is true. Somebody was actually on Facebook a couple weeks ago. There was some guy driving down the freeway with the casket in the back, and he got pulled over by the CHP. And he said, well, I've got a body, and the CHP says,
no,
it doesn't count.
It doesn't. Oh, yeah, otherwse everybody would have a dead body
That's
in the
right.
back.
That's right. Everybody keep their loved ones.
Yeah,
keep on ice.
That is funny. What do you call it? What do you say to a pastor or a social worker that deals with having to deal with all this stress and negativity and hardship? What do you tell them? How? Because you're happy. You put the fun in funeral.
I do put the fun in funeral, but the thing is, I think that's God gave me that personality. I think it's just in me. You can't learn it, trade. You got to just have it in your heart. And I think that's maybe, I see so much death and depression and sadness that it's like, I just leave that at work. So when I get out of work, I just want to be happy and fun and enjoy life, because you never know when your last day is going to be.
That's true.
You know, and it just like, I had my wife for 25 years. She was 49 years old when she died.
Yeah, you don't.
You never know when your last day is.
You don't plan on.
You don't plan on it. So, ever since she passed away, I look at life a little bit more precious, and I starting to enjoy life, because my dad died when he was 67. He was in a boating accident. He drowned.
Oh,
he had just retired, so he didn't get to enjoy life either. I mean, he went on his first long 8-week vacation, and he died 3 weeks into it. So for me, it's like, you know what? You never know when life's going to be taken away. So you got to live every day to the fullest, and you still got to work, but you got to make sure you have time for family and fun.
That's a good word. That's a good encouragement to people, because you can't just deal with sadness and just bring it home with you and have to deal with it. And now you're a single man.
Yep.
You're dating again, and you're just I admire you. Really, I admire you, because
thank you.
I'm a comedian, and sometimes I let things get to me, and I was like, I'd come home with that. But if I have a great show and people, like last night, people were just screaming, laughing.
Yeah.
And I came home, I'm in a great mood.
That's
Sometimes the show, after 30 years, you're still funny and you do a great job, but it's not like, and you go, I don't like this show, the people were this or I was that. But you can't bring it home with you.
No.
Now, what do you call it? There's a lot of people listening right now, and I want to, why should they come to Thomas Miller Mortuary?
Why should they come to us? Well, the reason I got back into this business is I wanted to keep it family owned and operated. And because I think being family owned and operated, we keep it personalized. And that's why I do what I've done. And that's why the people I've hired, my staff, they're compassionate people. They love to do what they do too. And we're like an extended family. When your family comes to us, we're inviting you into our home. Our funeral home is your home. And we're here to memorialize your loved one, to make it a special remembrance. No matter if they're young or old, it's been a life that's been well lived or well cherished, and we want to memorialize that, and we want to customize it so each individual has their own special tribute of memories, to memorialize that person.
And some people don't know, like you just had a funeral for a baby that was, not born yet, but it was full term.
Yeah.
So you guys, those are hard.
They're really hard, and when my staff has to meet with a family that loses a child, it's tough, because some of my funeral directors have lost children too, and so it makes it sensitive to them, and for me is I was in the funeral business for 25 years until my dad died. I lost a grandparent, but I never lost a parent or a spouse. I really never knew what it felt like until I lost my dad, and I knew that I lost a parent, that I had that feelings of knowing what people were going through. Then when I lost my wife, now I know what really people, when they come in and they've lost their wife or their husband, I know what they're feeling now. And so it makes it that much more personalized, knowing that I've gone through it, knowing what they're going through.
That's right. And to me, I remember when I was a comedian in Hollywood, and I was it was very successful and things were great. And then when I walked into a church and I knew that Jesus loves me, and I know for sure, I always end my show with this, like, God is a good father, and a good, I'm an okay father. My little girl Tally, when I drop her at school, in the morning, or I don't tell her, what, maybe we'll pick you up today. I don't know if we don't have anything. No, a dad will say, no, my daughter knows beyond any doubt that I'm going to be there for her when she finishes school.
Yeah.
Well, our Heavenly Father is a good Father.
Yes.
And He already made sure that the Bible stays, regardless of how many people dislike it and want to remove it. It's still there to tell you, hey, I'm going to be there in that moment. When you're done, you're going to be with me.
Yes.
Absent from and that's what the encouragement, and you've heard throughout this podcast today that, you know what, if you're a believer, if you believe in Jesus Christ, that he died for you, rose again from the dead, that one day you'll be with him in heaven, that's comforting to you and your family and your loved ones to know that this is your hope. Because that's all it takes is faith in what Jesus did, and that gives you the hope. And from a funeral home director himself, that tells you going into a Christian home where they really believers that believe that this is where their loved one is, it's a lot easier. Yes, it's sad to lose one and you miss them, but to know that. So I hope you were encouraged today with what Chris was sharing about living with his wife the last 3 years before she left, went to be with the Lord, and just dealing with families every day and children and all that. So I hope that was encouraging to you. We tried to bring some laughter and humor to it.
Absolutely.
Because we can laugh.
Sure.
But you know what? We couldn't avoid the serious questions and the important questions. And I know we don't have any listeners right now, which is fine. Because we're ready to close this show.
We have listeners. We just don't have callers.
Oh, we have listeners, but we don't have callers. Because I know they're all busy and working, and I don't see any questions on Facebook. So with that, we're gonna close this episode. Right. I just want to let you know, guys, if you wanna just subscribe to Laughter for All podcast, and you can go to my website nazarethusa.com, or you can be on Facebook at Comedian Nazareth, or Twitter at Nazman. Please let your friends know. Let your loved ones know. Hey, this is clean. This is funny. This is encouraging. We have some serious stuff we deal with, but it's really encouraging and funny at the end of the day. I want to thank comedian John Campbell for his contribution today. But we thank you, Chris. Thank you. How can they get a hold of your mortuary?
Well, we have 2 locations. We have our main location in Corona and then in Riverside, but you can go to our website at thomasmillermortuary.com. And we're available 24/7.
thomasmillermortuary.com, and hopefully you don't have to use it. But what do you tell people to prepare? They say, let's say they have an elderly parent living at home.
Yep. If anybody is elderly or wanting to pre-plan, I always tell it's important to pre-plan prior to retirement, because while you still have some income, if you want to set that money aside for the future, then you want to make sure you have it taken care of.
So your kids don't have.
That's right. So there's not a burden on the rest of the family.
And that doesn't change. So if it goes more expensive.
That's right. It locks it in, and then it grows. The money grows in a little
really?
Insurance plan. Yes, the money grows there. So then it comes back to the family at the time when the person dies.
Okay, so they might save some money.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. You pay today's price, but you live 25 years. You don't pay the inflation.
That's a good business. Where's Dave Ramsey when you need him?
There you go.
Okay, guys. So start planning for your funeral now, and maybe in 30 years, when you go be with the Lord, you leave something for your kid.
There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Naz, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
I love you, man. You're amazing.
God bless you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. And if you're in Bakersfield this weekend at Friday, September 20th, I'm going to be at Canyon Hills doing the Laughter for All. It's a free event. It's already got 1,250 people coming, so we have room for you. Go to laughterforall.org. God bless you. Thank you, and love you.